Have you ever wondered what Dutch test is about? Dry urinary test of cortisol and hormones. So I have for you three case studies today. 37-year-old woman that wants to improve her fertility because she wants to become a mom. It's the high time. Then we have a 42-year-old woman that has very irregular cycles. And then we have a 53-year-old that is on a hormone replacement therapy. She is using estradiol and progesterone, but still suffers with the typical signs and symptoms of hot flashes and night sweats, despite having quite a large dose. So in this third case, we are looking if she is absorbing the dose and what could be the root cause. So if you are interested only in hormone replacement therapy, then you skip to the last part, but I recommend watching it from the start because for the first part, the fertility, I'm going to talk in details about this test. Also, I'm going to interpret it with a functional medicine point of view, which means that we are looking at the matrix, and at the center of the matrix, we have mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So I, of course, have always the functional medicine questionnaire completed by a client, and I know what's happening in their life. And we are not only focusing on, oh, how can we increase or decrease estradiol, but we are taking it upstream. We are looking on the impact of stress on the hypothalamus, adrenal glands, thyroid, and also the ovarian function. So that's why you will hear me talking about the lifestyle changes and also the dietary changes. Conventional medicine, on the other hand, would be looking only how to put the plaster on the problem. So if, for example, somebody has estrogen dominance because of the perimenopause or other reasons, they're going to give them maybe contraception to stop the ovulation completely and silence the hormones. But that is not a solution. That is a downstream, fast replacement of something that is anyway one day going to show in other directions. So case number one, we are looking at the 37-year-old woman. She has premenstrual syndrome. What does it mean? That may be a couple of days before the period. She has sore belly, she has mood swings, and then she has heavy periods, which is obviously already telling me that she will have more estrogen than progesterone. And remember, this is brother and sister. They want to be working in synergy. She also have migraines, which is another reason for thinking about high estrogen levels. And she has a family history of cardiovascular disease. Of course, we have done also the markers for cardiovascular disease. We have done a complete blood test. So I have all her information. Therefore, I know that she has high LDL. So this is a low density lipoprotein. So that's a carrier, like a shopping bag that takes the molecules of coenzyme QA and basically turns it into fat as a belly fat, as a storage. And of course, because it's heavy, it's like low density, it might damage the lining of the vessels. So we have to decrease the LDL while we are also focusing on the sex hormones to help her improve the fertility. And she has irregular cycles after the egg freezing, which also happens very often. So on the first page of the Dutch test, we look at the overview, what we need to focus on. So it's like right away, and then we go into details. So right away, I can see that estradiol, so it's one of the estrogens. We have estron, estradiol, and estriol. And estradiol is needed for the fertility, but too much is not always good. Progesterone, so we know that she ovulates, that's good. However, what we are also looking at is how does she break down the hormones? Because remember that hormone is a chemical messenger. So you send me a message, I read it, Blanka, be at 10 o'clock at the shopping center. And that's all. I read it, and then I'm going to delete the message. I don't need to store it in my mobile phone. And the same happens with when the hormone estradiol message was delivered. We need to break it down and we need to eliminate it from the body. Yeah. And so we are looking at into which metabolites, the broken down products, do we break it? Is it in a safe way? And how fast or in an optimal way do we eliminate it? So right away, I have made here a mark that she is breaking it down into the 16-OH, which is carcinogenic metabolite. That's not what we want. So we will have to look at her genetic test, which she has done as well, and see is this a preferred way because it's genetically predisposed, and what can we do about it? And then we are looking at the methylation. So how fast does she eliminate it from the body? Yeah. So we can actually see that the methylation is not as fast as we would want because it's you see, this is showing that we have more of the 2OH than the methylated metabolite. Yeah. And then here we are looking at androgens. This is also very important. Everybody thinks that androgens, testosterone, and so on are masculine hormones. Yes, that's masculine hormones. But what you need to understand is that the egg in the ovary has two linings, right? Two sheets. So one is granulosa cells, it's on the like inner part, and then we have theca cells. And theca cells transform testosterone into estradiol. This is what happens in every female. So we are always looking at what levels of the testosterone do you have. Of course, we have testosterone in other tissues as well. So for example, for menopausal women, we have belly fat, which also has, for example, aromatase enzyme that turns testosterone into estron, not estradiol, but estron, which is not for the fertility, but still, for example, for the bone health and so on. So we are also looking how much of the testosterone and DHEA she has, and like which enzymes we have to focus on, whether we want to regulate them, so we want them to work in a better way because they're not working on an optimal way, or if we want to down regulate them because they are turning like product A to B too fast, so we want to slow down this process. So this test is very, very, very complex, and that's what we were looking at. But as you can see on the first page, we are also looking at the function of the adrenal glands. So hypothalamus, brain, of course, sends a signal to all the other glands in the body, and they work in synchrony. So we are never looking only at ovaries. Let's focus on ovaries. No, no. It's the thyroid that gives permission to ovaries to grow the follicles and so on. And it's the hypothalamus that has a negative feedback loop that sends the signals to these glands as well. So if one gland is overproducing and she is, as we can see, under a massive stress, that is not the time to really ovulate and reproduce. And we need to get this also under control. So we need cortisol, just to say. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and especially in the morning, it helps us to wake up. And you can see right away on this graph that we were checking cortisol awakening response. So this is a salivary test. So this test, it's a Dutch plus. So we are not testing only metabolites from urine, the broken down products in the urine, but we are also checking saliva. And the cortisol that is in saliva, it has been directly produced. So it did not have to go through the metabolic processes. So we know right away how it works. And it responds to the circadian rhythm. So sun will hit the retina, and retina will send the signal to the brain, and boom, we wake up. Yeah. And is this working well? Actually, when she wakes up, it's still in green, even though it's in the upper part. But then you can see that within 30 minutes, her brain gets under a massive stress. Maybe it's a perceived stress. Maybe she's thinking about her working day, and it is a psychological stress. But as I write here down, we have different types of stress. We have 3 types of stress. It's psychological, that's we created with our illusion of stress, of what's coming. So we are not in a present moment, mindfulness, but we are already thinking what happens? Then we have chemical stress. So for example, if there is any pathogen. So for this person, I have done also stool tests. So I know that she has pathogens. She has H. pylori and she had some bacterial overgrowth and candida and so on, which is also stressful for the body. So that's the chemical stress when the immune system is trying to fight. And then we have mechanical stress. So for example, if you have like injury or you have like sore joints, and there is a fraction that can be a mechanical stress as well. So three different types of stress. And that's why we do the questionnaire. And that's why I ask them, I want to know everything about every client so that I can understand. So what you are telling me, the feelings that you have, can I also see them as a confirmation in these tests? And how can we personalize the protocol for you so that you feel better in the shortest possible way on every level of the diet and lifestyle? Yeah. And then we are looking what is the total cortisol, and that is too high. We are also looking what is the clearance rate. So she's actually clearing it quite well. And right away, I made here notes for me that we know that cortisol production needs large amount of vitamin C and zinc and of course amino acids, but we also need B vitamins. So I'm right away looking which supplements is she using? Is the dose sufficient or does she have any deficiency? And for that we have another test, metabolomics, but not necessary to really do because anyway I'm going to recommend supplements for her so that the body has sufficient amount of building blocks. Because imagine if you are stressed, you are running away from the tiger and your adrenal glands, this factory needs to all the time produce cortisol, then the vitamin C and zinc cannot be produced in any other factory. So we need vitamin C, for example, also for collagen for the skin, to stop the aging. Or we need vitamin C as antioxidants to catch the free radicals, so to stop this oxidative stress that could potentially lead to the DNA damage and cancer. So we need large amount of these micronutrients when we are under stress. Yeah? So that will be another topic that I'm going to talk about with this client. And when we look here, of course, I wrote, let's go upstream. Let's look at what can be the root cause. And in her case, from the stool test, we know that she also has leaky gut because she has increased zonulin, actually a little bit increased calprotectin, but not in the levels that I would refer her to the gastroenterologist yet. And from the blood test, I know that she has increased high sensitivity CRP and also fibrinogen, and also uric acid was increased. And since we know that she has a family history of cardiovascular disease, we will be looking at this. And here, actually, in her stool test, also the secretory immunoglobulin A was increased. If you are more interested in knowing about the gut-brain axis and the gut health, check the videos about the gastrointestinal stool tests that are super interesting. But let's continue with looking at the estrogen, progesterone, and androgen. So another education. We need as a building block cholesterol. So those ones that are on a low fat diet because they are worried of the cardiovascular health, they maybe don't have enough of the building blocks, but our body is smart. So it's in a exogenous and endogenous process. It always balances of what we get from the food and what else we create. So our body knows how to make cholesterol from other sources because cholesterol is the building block for all steroid hormones. And you can see that first we do this, we create the pregnenolone, actually in the mitochondria from the cholesterol. And then depending on what the body says that is needed, so the brain will say, hey, now she's under stress. This is called cortisol steal. We need to use all the building blocks to create cortisol, and therefore we don't have time for anything else. But in her case, we are looking at, so DHEA, this is use hormone, and this is a storage, so sulfated version. She has quite like nice levels. This is also made in adrenal glands. Then we can see that she has like good testosterone, and then testosterone is turned into estrogens, right? So aromatase, which is the enzyme, usually I test it in the DNA tests if there is any polymorphism, but in her case that was not upregulated in a massive way. But aromatase is probably upregulated, and we need to little bit downregulate it. So I will be giving her supplements, herbal supplements, and also I will recommend which food she needs to avoid and which food she needs to increase. So we slow down the function of the aromatase enzyme so that she is not producing as much estrogen, estradiol, and estriol. And we are also going to look at these pathways. So if I scroll a little bit more down, you can see that these are our primary estrogens. And then our body, again, this is genetically coded, what preference your body has, which pathway it chooses to go, okay? And in her case, you can see that it doesn't choose the protective one that I prefer, but it chooses, unfortunately, the one that is very carcinogenic, very estrogenic, okay? And that's what we need to change. You have maybe heard about methylation and COMT and these enzymes. And yes, that's needed for this pathway. But the other pathway, which is the 16-OH carcinogenic metabolites that could cause breast cancer, ovarian cancer, gut cancer, and we definitely want to make sure that we eliminate these metabolites from the body, it's very high. So I already know that maybe this is caused by the leaky gut, but what I definitely know is that we need to support it. So it doesn't go through the methylation, as I showed you, it doesn't go through the methylation. This goes through the glucuronidation and sulfation. So for that, we need sulfur and we need glucuronic acid. So for that, we have like other supplements, for example, calcium D, glucarate. And I would be in her stool test also looking at the beta glucuronidase that sometimes like recirculates these metabolites. And I want to see if it's caused by this. But otherwise, we will be supporting the bile flow. If she was to do the metabolomics, I would maybe know if she's low in taurine because taurine is needed for the optimal bile flow. Okay, so I don't have this information. So I will anyway support taurine, glycine, and bile flow with bitter herbs and maybe even iberogast and so on. But I will also recommend supplements such as berberine, quercetin, because they inhibit this enzyme. And that's what we want. If we inhibit this enzyme, then we are going to shift it towards the other enzyme where I'm going to recommend, as you can see, DIM and sulforaphanes. So broccoli sprouts she will be eating, which she likes, EGCG, which is the extracts from the green tea, and so on. So many other supplements, how we are going to shift it. And then in 3 months, we are going to retest and see if this strategy worked together with other strategies. Yeah. So this was the first one. Just I'm not looking only at the reference range, but if she's also getting closer to the being out of the reference range. And here, this is a beautiful representation of what happens. So what I was quite surprised about was her high levels of melatonin. And you have maybe heard about melatonin, that it's a sleeping hormone. Yeah. So when people have a jet lag, they are going to take the pills of melatonin, like what, 2, 3, 4, 5 milligrams, and they fall asleep very quickly. Yeah. So definitely melatonin, because it's normally produced by the pineal gland, it helps us to fall asleep. But why in the morning she has high levels of melatonin? And there are many theories, because what happens is that melatonin is not only a sleeping hormone, it's a very powerful antioxidant. And whenever we have some inflammation in the body, it makes us a little bit sleepy. It slows us down. And that's what she confirmed. She told me, I cannot really wake up in the morning. I'm definitely not refreshed, yeah, because she has still high levels of melatonin. Yeah? So this is basically the sulfated version that was eliminated in the urine. So we know that she had high levels of melatonin. And it's a powerful antioxidant, as I said, but maybe she also have like low liver enzymes, or maybe it is also because she eats or supplements too much of the tryptophan, or maybe she's taking 5-HTP, maybe it's some other supplement. So we always need to take everything into consideration. Or is the oxidative stress created by the dysbiosis that she has in her gut? So we are connecting it all together. We are looking at the production of the adrenal glands. That's what I showed you already before, that she has high cortisol levels. And then her cortisone, which is a storage, is fine. Yeah. But cortisol was high, and we are definitely going to work on this with adaptogens. Otherwise, for example, I was also checking if she's clearing the cortisol metabolites well. And for this, we also need the enzymes. So we have 5 alpha reductase and 5 beta reductase. And I was just looking which one she's using more. And actually, this beta, it's usually to calm the brain. So if there is a stress, you will have more of this one. So that was quite interesting as well. Let me see if there is anything else that I would like to share with you from this report. No, the report is actually very, very long, but you get it. We found the root cause. Now, let's look at the case study number 2. 42. Too young. This woman wanted to get pregnant. She actually became my client when she was 41, and she was telling me she wants to freeze her eggs because she has a new partner and she would want to have another child. But already at that time, when she had just blood tests, I could see that her FSH and LH were increased. And so FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone, are produced by the hypothalamus, because that is sending signals to the ovaries not being satisfied. It says, make more estrogen and progesterone, produce more so that we can grow the follicles. But what happens is that we can still have some follicles in the ovaries, but they don't grow. And if they don't grow, because the sensitivity or signaling is not working optimal way, then there is no ovulation. Perimenopause can start at the age of 35. And even though you might still have menstrual cycle, it is anovulatory cycle. You are not ovulating. And what happens is that if you don't ovulate, you don't have corpus luteum. And it's the corpus luteum in a luteal phase after the ovulation that produces progesterone. Progesterone is a pregnancy hormone. Progesterone is calming, but progesterone is also needed for osteoblasts to grow the bone in the bone marrow. So estrogen keeps the bone strong, but does not grow. It's the progesterone that we need. And so when you have mood swings, and when you feel like not yourself anymore, and when you have maybe shorter period and heavier periods, it's because there was no ovulation. So it shortened, and because you had no ovulation, there was no progesterone. Then you have more estrogen. And even if you have low levels of estrogen, estradiol, or estron, still, compared to the progesterone, which is 0, you are estrogen dominant, and that's why you might have heavy periods. And this is already the time to go to the gynecologist and maybe ask her if you can take small dosage of progesterone, micronized progesterone, which is utrogestan. But again, disclaimer, this is the consultation with your gynecologist. But knowledge is power, and standing your point, knowing your data, presenting it to the doctor and saying, I want to try it based on these results. This is how I help the women to understand. Is this literacy, it's this knowledge about your body and your physiology that will help you to give enough information to your gynecologist. So she is in confirmed early menopause. And how do we know it? Look, if I scroll down, non-existent hormones. So the purple color is postmenopausal. Look, she's on a low level of postmenopausal. So estradiol, the fertility hormone that is produced only in ovaries from the theca cells and from the granulosa cells. It's not there. So we know it's low. Progesterone, of course, it's low because she did not ovulate. Now let's look at the androgens, adrenal glands, because in menopause, adrenal gland takes over and at least in the tissue creates some testosterone, and then we can convert it into estrone. Okay, estrone is typical for menopause. It's not very powerful, definitely not fertility, and it's from other tissue. So let's look if she has enough of the youth hormone, DHEA. Not that bad, but look how much of the testosterone she has. It's like very low. So then even if she had the enzyme aromatase, we will be looking at it in a little while, would that work? Well, it would if the thyroid gland, if the adrenal gland was working in a proper way. But look at that. Her adrenal gland, even though it shows in green, look where is the middle. You always want to be in the middle. You never want to be in a low, never want to be in a high. So I can immediately see that we will, with adaptogens that are for hormones, we will need to support this because I want that she has optimal levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and also the testosterone and DHEA. Yeah. So let's look in details about her hormones. Yeah, so look upstream if you are a nutritional therapist or maybe health coach or whatever, and you are interested in how you could help your clients in a better way. This is definitely going to be useful for you. So again, she had low levels of testosterone. If you have low levels of a raw product, you are going to have even lower levels of the next product. So in this case, what are we going to do? We are going to upregulate aromatase. So we are going to look at which supplements and food and lifestyle changes can upregulate this enzyme so that she can turn testosterone into at least estrone, or we are going to prepare her how to speak to her gynecologist and maybe ask for the hormone replacement therapy. But before we would do so, we want to check if there is no risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and so on, or if there is, like, at least in this, because remember, it's not only genes, because genes, it's like a loaded gun. It's the environment that pulls the trigger. So how we behave, how we sleep, how we have our thoughts under control, how much of the inner peace we carry. That's the environment that will pull the trigger. But in her case, look, I see that, like from very little or no, we cannot really see how she would be producing it because everything is low. It seems to me, okay, when I look at this, that maybe she's choosing the 4OH. And 4OH is damaging the DNA, okay? So you can see that it can create the reactive quinones and DNA. So imagine that if the oxidative stress and these quinones come and they damage the cell is replicating, but then it replicates with the mistake. How many times by replicating with the mistake it's going to cause cancer? So we absolutely don't want to support the 4OH and definitely not the 16OH. We always want to support this protective elimination. Yeah. And also, if you don't know anything about detoxification, how it happens in the liver, very short, we have three phases. So we have phase one, when drug, toxins, anything gets activated and becomes actually even more reactive, more carcinogenic, more damaging. So we need to do the phase two. We need to eliminate it. We need to break it down. And then phase three is when in the stool and in the urine we eliminate it. So basically three pathways need to be in optimal way. But it's another another topic about the detoxification that you can see on my Thinkific platform. It's how to detoxify quickly and safely. And there are all the pathways, how you can find out. And maybe you also want to watch the DNA interpretation, so DNA hormones or DNA core, where we are looking at how your detoxification pathways work, which one is maybe faster and needs to be downregulated, and which one is slow, not working in a proper way, and how can we upregulate it. Yeah, so this is science. So in her case, this was very sad to see. There were like no hormones at all. That's why she was tired. That's why she was gaining the weight. That's why she had like depression, night sweats, poor sleep. Her cardiovascular health went down. She had joint pains and muscle pain, couldn't build a muscle. Absolute answer for all of this. And this is again what I was like thinking about. So I could see that she produced cortisol in a low amounts, and cortisol is the storage. So we can see that nothing was put into the storage because the body says like, hey, I cannot store it. I don't even have enough for you to flow through the day. So we definitely need to work on it. So again, it's vitamin C, zinc. We need to check if there is enough cholesterol availability. So she's going to do the blood test actually today. She's going to do the blood tests, and we will check also her B vitamin levels. She has done the metabolomics. So I already have the results for this, and I will compare it. And we will also see the methylation and how she's basically using macronutrients and micronutrients and what she has the need for. And then we are also going to check her thyroid. So if it's working in an optimal way, because thyroid, as I said, is giving permission to other hormones. So that was the case study number 2. And now let's look at case study number 3. And this was for a 53-year-old woman. So she became fully menopausal, or that's how she calls it, at the age of 50. And she went to multiple gynecologists that were prescribing her different hormone replacement therapies. Usually they gave her synthetic versions, and it was, for example, estrogen and progesterone in a synthetic progestin in a combined pill. I personally, so I also take hormone replacement therapy already from the age of 45 in microdosing. And based on my research and functional medicine and nutritional therapy and all the tests that I have done, I always knew that the only one that I would take would be the bioidentical micronized progesterone utrogestan, and I would be taking it orally, so not vaginally, because I really want that it has impact also on my brain and helps me to fall asleep within 15 minutes. And then I knew that I would be microdosing estradiol gel based on the Oura Ring data and tracking my temperature and hormones. So it's not that the doctor decides about me to take 2 pumps if I don't need 2 pumps. If, for example, my phase 1 is very slow and therefore it stays active in my body for a very long time, and my phase 2 is slow, therefore, or it's fast and would eliminate it from the body. So I always knew what is the right dosage for me based on my data. And I'm satisfied with this. And now I'm also going to do the DEXA scan and other tests. So for this client, I worked with her for like 2 years, and we were changing the hormone replacement therapy. I told her how to speak to the doctor. She changed it, and then she was on estradiol 2 pumps and 200 milligrams of utrogestan. And that's why we did this test. So Dutch test is perfect for seeing how do you utilize the hormone replacement therapy and whether the dosage is optimal. So let me actually, is it here? For some reason, the first page is not scanned because I wanted to show you that her estradiol levels, let me see if it's somewhere here. Okay, I will show you in here, but the first page was not visible. So we can right away see that does she have enough of the use hormone? Low levels. Yeah, so the adrenal gland again might be depleted. When we look at her cortisol levels, let's look at the cortisol levels, okay? We are going to look at the cortisol levels. Why would the adrenal gland be depleted? Look at that. Yeah. So this is the storage. Storage is on a very low way. This is inactive. Because our system like down regulates and protects us. But look at the active one. So in the morning when she was supposed to like wake up and have the highest energy, and then 2 hours later, so imagine you wake up at 7 and at 9 o'clock in the morning you are flat. You're flat. Maybe you go for coffee or something, you cannot exercise, you cannot think, and then she's flat. So this is, in my opinion, stage 2 of the stress, and maybe even stage 3. Yeah, so stage 3 is burnout, or it's very close to burnout. It can happen anytime. And she told me, so she's 53, and she said she's thinking about retiring soon because she just cannot manage what she used to do before. So again, we are going to think about how we can support the adrenal glands and also improve this happy hormone, serotonin, happy hormone. So we will have like support for that as well. And we will go upstream because she has bloating no matter what she eats. So we need to fix the dysbiosis. She has inflammation in her body. So again, she will be taking larger doses of omega-3. So it's 3000 milligrams. EPA DHE needs to be balanced well. So if she's a vegan, she's not, but if she was a vegan, she would need to take really large doses of the algae supplement and definitely curcumin. And we will choose curcumin in combination with other anti-inflammatory uh, supplements. And now we are looking at this. Yeah. So as I told you before, her progesterone levels, despite taking 200 milligrams of utrogestan, micronized progesterone, is extremely low. So she needs to go back to her doctor and she needs to discuss whether increasing the dosage would be beneficial and how she can try it. And again, we are going to improve, the bile flow and uh, fat digestion and gut integrity, bitter herbs, taurine, phosphatidylserine for sleep to improve the sleep, and so much more. Yeah. So some people once asked me about, oh, I'm using yum cream, which is like a progesterone, and it's transdermal. Well, because progesterone, like any basically hormone like progesterone in this form of the yum cream is not going to work for menopause, definitely not. You really need a supplement. What works as a transdermal is the estrogen, okay? And you can see that she's using 2 pumps of that estradiol. And what's really interesting is that she has really balanced all levels. So she has estrogen, estradiol, or also estriol perfectly. And then we are looking, okay, she's on a HRT. Um, is it dangerous for her to have HRT, or is she using the safe way? And does high safe means always good? Yeah. So again, we need to really look deep. So look, the 16OH, that is the most estrogenic carcinogenic, is low. So that pathway is safe. The 4OH, the one that is damaging DNA, it's also fine. What's surprising, you would think, okay, but this is protective. But again, too much of everything, that's not what we want. So why is it so high? Is it because her phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification pathways are out of balance? Because safe but fast. So what happens is, and probably even with the progesterone, is that she is taking the supplements, but that is broken down too fast. So I have received a message, but I did not even have a time to read it because it got deleted, automatically deleted. So that is not the point of it, right? We need to give enough time in the first phase for the primary estrogens to act and pass the message to the receptors before it gets safely eliminated. And so it's not about suppressing the phase 2, but maybe upregulating the phase 1. We just need them in the balance. So is she maybe doing something in a wrong way? Is she maybe detoxifying too much? Is she drinking detox tea? Is she taking some supplements for detox that break it down so quickly? That would be my question to her. Does she need to pause some of these supplements like DIM or the I3C, which is all the sulforaphanes? Was she on a detox event, or is she fasting for 7 days, like some water fast? What is she doing? Is she taking some binders? What is it? Yeah. So you always need to dig deeper and you need to ask, like, but why is that? Not just to think like, oh, this one is safe and tick the box. No. If you're a nutritional therapist or coach, always asking why, 5 times why, right? This is the technique. So then we are looking, okay, if she has so much of the 2OH, how does she methylate it? Yeah, so we check the methylation and we can see that she has low methylation. So what happens is that stays stuck for a really long time in this OH2 metabolite, but it is not taken then to this phase two. So how can we improve it, or can we look? She actually has done genetic tests as well, where we were looking at her COMT. Is the COMT gene slow? And how can we support it? Does it need more magnesium, B vitamins? Does it need glutathione? Does she have oxidative stress? All these things. Yeah. So here I also made the note, transdermal progesterone just doesn't work. So it's like inconsistent and unpredictable, and definitely not recommended by functional medicine or nutritional therapy. Yeah, so menopausal on HRT, the hormone replacement therapy, what is the root cause, and how can we, or how can she speak to the gynecologist and maybe discuss the dosage adjustment? Progesterone is anabolic, so it's building the bone. This is the most important. And maybe we need to also look at the liver. So is the progesterone, because she's taking it orally, is it bypassing the digestion? Is there some issue in the gastrointestinal tract? And that's what I am going to investigate with her. Yeah. So we can see that everything was like pretty low. She is almost in a burnout. That was a case study. Number 3. And if you are interested in digging deeper, seeing the DNA test or gut test, or if you are like, now, wow, I want this. How can I order it? Super easy. This is a home test. So I order it for you. You just receive the invoice. You just have to pay it. And then you receive the package. And all you need to do is take the saliva in like 4 to 6 times a day. So it's super easy, just like saliva. And then you put it into the packages, and then you are urinating, because we are collecting for 24 hours the urine. So you can see here, we are collecting the urine when you wake up, 2 hours after waking up, at dinner time, 5, 6 o'clock, at bedtime, maybe 10 o'clock. And there is also like one example. If you, for example, wake up at night, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you can do this one, but that's optional. Yeah, it's really good because it shows us if there was any like cortisol stress, if you have maybe like glucose or insulin issues, and then we are focusing on it with the blood tests. And then we have a whole story of what's happening in you. You do it at home on Sunday. On Monday, you just drop it off in a DHL shop. And within 2 weeks, you have results and you know everything about you. And if there is a necessity to talk to the doctor, I always tell you what you need to do, how to speak to the doctor. I actually even write a letter to the doctor. This is functional medicine.